Well, hello. I'm home in Whiterun. I'm here with Serena. We stayed the night here. Lydia's there. I got rid of my vampire diseases. And now this girl wants me to take her all the way home to... I'm not sure. While exploring Dim Hollow Crypt, I freed a young woman from an ancient sarcophagus. She asked me to guide her home to a castle off the northern coast of SKYRIM. So that's what I'm going to do. Are you ready?
It's not too far now. At least, I don't think it is. I thought you knew the way.
I do. Why were you locked away again?
I'd rather not get into that with you, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not that... It's just that I don't know who I can trust yet.
I think you're a fan.
Let's get to my home, and I'll have a better sense of where we all stand.
Okay. Tell me about your home.
It's on an island near Solitude. Hopefully we can find a boat to take us there. It's my family home. Not the most welcoming place, but depending on who's around, I'll be safe there.
Is there someone you don't want to see?
My father and I don't really get along. Saying it out loud makes it sound so common. Little girl who doesn't get along with her father. Read that story 100 times.
That's an Elder Scroll, right?
Yes, it is. And it's mine.
Is it fragile? Do we need to be careful with it?
Nothing can destroy an Elder Scroll. Worry more about protecting your hide and let me worry about my things.
Okay, let's go. But first, I will be reading a book. And hopefully there's something about vampires. I don't think so. Alright, I found my books. We're going to read the 2920 Morning Star Volume 1, 2920 Sun's Dawn Volume 2. Just get caught up on that. Then I'm going to go sell them. We will read it right here. You can take a seat if you want there. Okay, the 2920 Morning Star Volume 1. Last Year, the First Era by Karlovac Townway. Almalexia lay in her bed of fur, dreaming. Not until the sun burned through her window, infusing the light, wood and flesh colors of her chamber in a milky glow, did she open her eyes. It was quiet and serene, a stunning reverse of the flavor of her dreams, so full of blood and celebration. For a few moments she simply stared at the ceiling, trying to sort through her visions. In the courtyard of her palace was a boiling pool which steamed in the coolness of the winter morning. At the wave of her hand it cleared, and she saw the face and form of her lover Vivek in his study to the north. She did not want to speak right away. He looked so handsome in his dark red robes, writing his poetry as he did every morning. "Vivek," she said, and he raised his head in a smile, looking at her face across thousands of miles. "I have seen a vision at the end of the war. After 80 years, I don't think anyone can imagine an end," said Vivek with a smile, but he grew serious, trusting Almalexia's prophecies. "Who will win, Morrowind or the Cyrodiilic Empire? Without Sothosil and Morrowind, we will lose," she replied. "My intelligence tells me the Empire will strike us to the north in early springtide. By first seed at the latest. Could you go to Artaeum and convince him to return?" "I'll leave today," she said simply. The Empress paced around her cell. Wintertide gave her wasteful energy, while in the summer she would merely sit by her window and be grateful for each breath of stale swamp wind that came to cool her. Across the room, her unfinished tapestry of a dance at the imperial court seemed to mock her. She ripped it from its frame, tearing the pieces apart as they drifted to the floor. Then she laughed at her own useless gesture of defiance. She would have plenty of time to repair it and craft 100 more. The Emperor had locked her up in a castle Giovesi 7 years ago, and would likely keep her until he or she died. With a sigh, she pulled the cord to call her knight, Zuck. He appeared at the door within minutes, fully uniformed as befitted an imperial guard. Most of the native Kathringi tribesmen of Black Marsh preferred to go about naked, but Zuck had taken a positive delight to fashion. His silver reflective skin was scarcely visible, only on his face, neck, and hands. "Your Imperial Highness," he said with a bow. "Zuck," said Empress Tavia, "I'm bored. Let's discuss methods of assassinating my husband today." The chimes proclaiming Southwind's prayer echoed through the wide boulevards and gardens of the imperial city. Calling all to their temples, the Emperor Reman III always attended a service at the temple of the One, while his son and heir, Prince Ulick, found it more political to attend a service at a different temple for each religious holiday. This year it was at the Cathedral Benevolence of Mara. The benevolent services were mercifully short, but it was not until well after noon that the Emperor was able to return to the palace. By then, the arena combatants were impatiently waiting for the start of the ceremony. The crowd was far less restless, as the potentate Versidou Shea had arranged for a demonstration from a troupe of Khajiiti acrobats. "Your religion is so much more convenient than mine," said the Emperor to his potentate by the way of an apology. "What is the first game?" "A one-on-one battle between two able warriors," said the potentate, his scaly skin catching the sun as he rose, iron befitting their culture. "Sounds good," said the Emperor, and clapped his hands. "Let the sport commence." As soon as he saw the two warriors enter the arena, to the roar of the crowd, Emperor Ramon III remembered that he had agreed to this several months before and forgotten about it. One combatant was the potentate's son, Savarine Chorak, a glistening ivory yellow eel, gripping his katana in wakashi with his thin, deceptive looking arms. The other was the Emperor's son, Prince Ulek, in ebony armor, with a savage orcus helm, shield, and long sword at his side. "This will be fascinating to watch," hissed the potentate, a wide grin across his narrow face. "I don't know if I've ever seen a Cyrodiil fight on Akavir like this. Usually it's an army against army. At last we can settle which philosophy is better, to create armor to combat swords as your people do, or to create swords to combat armor as mine do." No one in the crowd, aside from a few scattered Akaviri counselors and the potentate himself, wanted Savir and Charak to win. But there was a collective intake of breath at the sight of his graceful movements. His sword seemed to be a part of him, a tail coming from his arms to match the one behind him. It was a trick of counterbalance, allowing the young serpent man to roll up into a circle and spin into the center of the ring in offensive position. The prince had to plod forward the less impressive traditional way. As they sprang at each other, the crowd bellowed with delight. The Akaviri was like a moon in orbit around the prince, effortlessly springing over his shoulder to attempt a blow from behind. But the prince whirled around quickly to block with his shield. His counter-strike met only air as his foe fell flat to the ground and slithered between his legs, tripping him. The prince fell to the ground with a resounding crash. Metal and air melted together as Savir and Shorak rained strike after strike upon the prince, who blocked every one with his shield. "We don't have shields in our culture," murmured Versidou Shea to the Emperor. "It seems strange to my boy. I imagine, in our country, if you don't want to get hit, you move out of the way." When Savir and Shorak was rearing back to begin another series of blinding attacks, the prince kicked at his tail, sending him falling back momentarily. In an instant he had rebounded, but the prince was also back on his feet. The two circled one another until the snake man spun forward, katana extended. The prince saw his foe's plan and blocked. the katana with his long sword and the wakizashi with his shield. Its short punching blade impaled itself in the metal, and Shorak was thrown off balance. The prince's long blade slashed across the Akivir's chest, and the sudden intense pain caused him to drop both his weapons. In a moment it was over. Sovereign Shorak was prostrate in the dust with the prince's long sword at his throat. "The game's over," shouted the emperor, barely heard over the applause from the stadium. The prince grinned and helped Sovereign Shorak up and over to a healer. The emperor clapped his potentate on the back, feeling relieved. He had not realized when the fight had begun how little chance he had given his son at victory. "He will make a fine warrior," said Versaduce, "and a great emperor." "Just remember," laughed the emperor, "you Akaviri have a lot of showy moves, but if just one of your strikes comes through, it's all over for you." "Oh, I'll remember that," nodded the potentate. Ramon thought about that comment for the rest of the games, and had trouble fully enjoying himself. Could the potentate be another enemy, just as the emperors had turned out to be? The matter would be watching. "Why don't you wear that green gown I gave you?" asked the Duke of Mournhold, watching the young maiden put on her clothes. "It doesn't fit," smiled Tarala, "and you know I like red." "It doesn't fit because you're getting fat," laughed the Duke, pulling her down on the bed, kissing her breasts and the pouch of her stomach. She laughed at the tickles, but pulled herself up, wrapping her red robe around her. "I'm round like a woman should be," said Tarala. "Will I see you tomorrow?" "No," said the Duke. "I must entertain Vivek tomorrow, and the next day, and the day. The Duke of Ebenhart is coming." "Do you know I never really appreciated Alexia and her political skills until she left?" "It is the same with me," smiled Tarala. "You will only appreciate me when I'm gone." "That's not true at all," smarted the Duke. "I appreciate you now." Tarala allowed the Duke one last kiss before she was out the door. She kept thinking about what he said. Would he appreciate her more or less when he knew that she was getting fat because she was carrying his child? Would he appreciate her enough to marry her? The year continues and suns dawn. And here it is. We're going to continue. Sothasil watched the initiates float one by one up to the accustomed tree, taking a fruit or a flower from its high branches before dropping back to the ground with varying degrees of grace. He took a moment while nodding his head in approval to admire the day. The whitewashed statue of SKYRIM, which the great mage was said to have posed for in ancient days, stood at the precipice of the cliff overlooking the bay. Pale purple prosciutto flowers waves to and fro in the gentle breeze. Beyond, ocean and the misty border between Artium and the main island of Somerset. "By and large acceptable," he proclaimed as the last student dropped her fruit in his hand. With the wave of his hand, the fruit and flowers were back in the tree. With another wave, the students had formed into position in a semicircle around the sorcerer. He pulled a small fibrous ball, about a foot in diameter, from his white robes. "What is this?" The students understood this test. It asked them to cast a spell of identification on the mysterious object. Each initiate closed his or her eyes and imagined the ball in the realm of the universal truth. Its energy had a unique resonance, as all physical and spiritual matter does. A negative aspect, a duplicate version, relative past, true meaning, a song in the cosmos, a texture in the fabric of space, a facet of being that has always existed and always will exist. "A ball," said a young Nord named Wellig, which brought giggles from some of the younger initiates, but a frown from most, including Sothasil. "If you must be stupid, at least be amusing," growled the sorcerer, and then looked at the young dark-haired Altmer lass who looked confused. Latha, do you know?" "It's a grom," said Latha, uncertainly, "what the Drew meth after they've Cravanism, but very good." "Nonetheless," said Sothasil, "Now tell me, what does that mean?" "I don't know," admitted Latha. The rest of the students also shook their heads. There are layers to understanding all things, said Sothosil. The common man looks at an object and fits it into a place in his way of thinking. Those skilled in the old ways, in the way of physic and mysticism, can see an object and identify it by its proper role. But one more layer is needed to be peeled back to achieve understanding. You must identify the object by its role and its truth and interpret the meaning. In this case, this ball is indeed Grom, which is a substance created by the Drew, an underwater race in the north and western parts of the continent. For 1 year of their life they undergo cravanism, when they walk upon the land. Following that, they return to the water and meth, or devour the skin and organs they needed for land dwelling. Then they vomit it up into little balls like this. Grom drew vomit. The students looked at the ball a little queasily. Sothosil always loved this lesson. Imperial City. Spies, muttered the Emperor, sitting in his bath, staring at a lump on his foot. All around me, traitors and spies. His mistress, Rizia, washed his back, her legs wrapped around his waist. She knew after all these many years when to be sensual and when to be sexual. When he was in a mood like this, it was best to be calmly, soothingly, seductively sensual, and not to say a word unless he asked her a direct question, which he did. What do you think when a fellow steps on His Imperial Majesty's foot and says, "I'm sorry, Your Imperial Majesty"? Don't you think, "Pardon me, Your Imperial Majesty," is more appropriate? "I'm sorry." Well, that almost sounds like the bastard Agonian was sorry, "I am His Imperial Majesty," that he hopes we lose the war with Morrowind. That's what it sounds like. What would make you feel better?" asked Risha. "Would you like him flogged? He is only, as you say, the battle chief of Soul Rest. It would teach him to mind where he's stepping. My father would have flogged him. My grandfather would have had him killed," the Emperor grumbled. "But I don't mind if they all step on my feet, provided they respect me and don't plot against me." "You must trust someone." "Only you," smiled the Emperor, turning slightly to give Risha a kiss. "And my son Ulick, I suppose, though I wish he were a little more cautious in your counsel and the potentate," asked Risha. "A pack of spies and a snake," laughed the Emperor, kissing his mistress again. As they began to make love, he whispered, "As long as you're true, I can handle the world." Mournhold. Turala stood at the black, bejeweled city gates. A wind howled around her, but she felt nothing. The Duke had been furious upon hearing his favorite mistress was pregnant, and cast her from his sight. She tried again and again to see him, but his guards turned her away. Finally, she returned to her family and told them the truth. If only she had lied and told them she did not know who the father was, a soldier, a wandering adventurer, anyone. But she told them that the father was the Duke, a member of the house in Doral, and they did what she knew they would have to do, as proud members of the house Redoran. Upon her hand was burned the sign of expulsion her weeping father had branded on her, but the Duke's cruelty hurt her far more. She looked out the gate and into the wide winter plains, twisted sleeping trees and skies without birds. No one in Morrowind would take her now. She must go far away. With slow, sad steps she began her journey. Sanchal at Akina, modern-day Elsyr. "What troubles you?" asked Queen Asama, noticing her husband's sour mood. At the end of the most lovers' days, he was in an excellent mood, dancing in the ballroom with all the guests. But tonight he retired early. When she found him, he was curled in the bed, frowning. "That blasted bard's tale about Polydor and Alosa put me in rotten state," he growled. "Why did he have to be so depressing?" "But isn't that the truth of the tale, my dear? Weren't they doomed because of the cruel nature of the world? It doesn't matter what the truth is. He did a rotten job of telling a rotten tale, and I'm not going to let him do it any more." King Drazel sprang from the bed. His eyes were roomy with tears. "Where did they say he was from again?" "I believe Gilverdale, in the easternmost Valenwood." said the queen, shaken. My husband, what are you going to do? Drozel was out of the room in a single spring, bounding up the stairs to his tower. If Queen Asama knew what her husband was going to do, she did not try to stop him. He had been erratic of late, prone to fits and even occasional seizures, but she never suspected the depths of his madness and his loathing for the bard and his tale of wickedness and perversity found in mortal man. Gilverdale, Valenwood. Listen to me again, said the old carpenter. If cell 3 holds worthless brass, then cell 2 holds the gold key. If cell 1 holds the gold key, then cell 3 holds worthless brass. If cell 2 holds worthless brass, then cell 1 holds the gold key. I understand, said the lady. You told me, and so cell 1 holds the gold key, right? No, said the carpenter. Let me start from the top. Mama, said the little boy, pulling on his mother's sleeve. Just one moment, dear. Mother's talking, she said, concentrating on the riddle. You said cell 3 holds the golden key if cell 2 holds worthless brass, right? No, said the carpenter patiently. Cell 3 holds worthless brass if cell 2... Mama, cried the boy. His mother finally looked. A bright red mist was pouring over the town in a wave, engulfing building after building in its wake. Striding before was a red-skinned giant that daydreamed a log ball. He was smiling. Gilverdale. Alexia stopped her steed in the vast mirror of mud to let him drink from the river. He refused to, even seem repelled by the water. It struck her as odd. They had been making excellent time from Mournhold, and surely he must be thirsty. She dismounted and joined her retinue. Where are we now? She asked. One of her ladies pulled out a map. I thought we were approaching a town called Gilverdale. Alexia closed her eyes and opened them again quickly. The vision was too much to bear. As her followers watched, she picked up a piece of brick and a fragment of bone and clutched them to her heart. We must continue on to Artaeum, she said quietly. The year continues in first seed. If I can ever find the damn book. Alright. So it looks like we are off to over here. So I guess it's bye for now. We'll see you in the North Watch Keep area. Take care.